Welcome to this Alaska Land mobile radio training video on scanning with the ALMR system. The ALMR system uses advanced technology known as the Project 25 standard. This standard is different than conventional radios that you may have been used to in the past, as it uses computer-controlled digital transmissions that are carefully controlled to manage the frequency spectrum and other advanced technology features that are available with today's technology. The ALMR system and P25 radio systems in general do allow for the scanning of radio channels and/or talk groups, but it functions much differently than scanning you may have been familiar with in the past. In this video, we will go through different scanning types, different programming considerations, and review the differences in scanning behavior between ALMR and other conventional frequencies. There are three main scanning types available to you for programming. These scanning types may be referred to differently in different radio programming software. Please check with your radio programming dealer or service center for specific information and documentation on your scanning types. In this video, let's review the three main types, which are conventional, priority monitoring, and multi-system talk group. Conventional scanning is a mode that allows the radio to scan conventional radio channels. Remember, conventional radio channels are typically referred to as simplex, tactical, or repeater type channels, not ALMR talk groups. The conventional scan mode does not work at all on any ALMR talk group. Conventional scan may be very useful if you have tactical channels or on-scene channels that you may use for different functions. Conventional scan can be set up with a scan list for these types of frequencies. If your agency does not use conventional or tactical or repeater conventional frequencies, then you may still have a use case for conventional scanning, as there are interoperable channels which are conventional or simplex. These are typically found in your interoperable zones, labeled North, Central, or Southeast. The next scanning mode is priority monitoring scan. Priority monitoring does not work with conventional channels. It works only with ALMR talk groups. You can set up a priority monitoring scan list that scans ALMR talk groups only. However, you can define priority talk groups. The radio then monitors those talk groups continuously and will interrupt other conversations you may be listening to switch to the defined priority talk groups. Priority talk groups are generally defined in the radio programming software if they're fixed. Some radios may also be programmed so the user can select priority talk groups on the unit itself without having to utilize the programming software. Finally, the multi-system talk group scan allows you to scan both conventional channels and ALMR talk groups at the same time. Your scan list can be mixed with these talk groups as well as any simplex or conventional channels. The limit of scans generally refers to the limits of your radio. Keep in mind, in a multi-system talk group scan, there are some specialized talk groups, such as multi-groups, that cannot be included in your scan list. Now that we have reviewed the different scan modes, we will talk about how to program your radio and the different use cases for scans. Before we do that, it's important to review the ALMR technology as it relates to scanning and what your experience may be if you use the scan mode on your radio. Simulcast is a technology that refers to what traffic is broadcast in what locations. Conventional radios, such as a repeater, may be simulcast. In other words, all of the traffic is broadcast to all of the sites. In ALMR, simulcast is not used. In other words, ALMR radio traffic is only broadcast to certain sites. Therefore, if you talk on a particular talk group, it will not be broadcast throughout the ALMR system unless there is a radio requesting it. A radio must be tuned to a specific talk group and affiliated with a specific site for that talk group's traffic to be broadcast. For instance, if a radio is requesting the Central Command Talk Group and is located on a site within the Matsu Valley, any radio that is tuned or scanning that Central Command Talk Group would receive the traffic. However, if the radio was on that same site, but your radio was on an adjacent site, if your radio was simply scanning that traffic, the traffic would not be broadcast. A scan list that you define in your radio is not tuning to a specific talk group. Therefore, when we talk about scanning, it often does not work as people expect the function to. And that is because the traffic itself must be requested via a radio tuned in on that particular site that you're affiliated with. Remember that radios generally will automatically affiliate with the best site. However, there are areas in the ALMR system where there may be multiple sites covering the same geographic area. It may be possible that radios might be in close proximity to one another, but tuned or affiliated to different actual ALMR sites. This can affect scanning, because most of the time when scan lists are programmed, users assume that it will look for all of that traffic. The radio itself is not requesting that traffic that's in a scan list. For scanning to work, the members of your scan list must be affiliated with the same site you are and must have a radio that's tuned into that talk group, causing the radio traffic to be broadcast. When programming radios for scanning, there are several different features that must be enabled or set in order for scanning to work properly. We are going to look at a few of the main scanning controls within the programming software. The screenshots shown in this video reflect one version of the Motorola APX software. Your individual software may differ, and you should consult with your dealer or manufacturer for the documentation on the appropriate locations for these controls. The first item is to ensure that there is a way to enable or disable the scan feature for your users. Remember that most radios are completely customizable, therefore all of the switches, controls, and menu items can be customized by each individual agency. Make sure that you have either a menu item, a button or control, or some other similar feature updated and programmed so the scans can be turned on and off. This may differ depending on your agency fleet map and your user preferences. Secondly, you must define the scan list that is going to be used in each trunking personality. Make sure that when you enter the trunking personality screen, you select the appropriate scan list that you have defined for that use case. Finally, the scan list must be defined. In the scan list, you will have the ability to select the scan type that we talked about earlier. In this sample, we are using the multi-system talk group scan type. Down at the bottom, you will see a section called Scan List Members. This area of the software is you will define the talk groups, channels, and other items that are scanned based on the scan type that you have selected. In this example, we have 3 different talk groups selected. That is Central Command 1 and Central Command 2, as well as Central Multigroup. In this example, notice that the multigroup is red. This is indicating by the software that there is something invalid about the information. Remember that some types of talk groups, such as multigroups, cannot be included in scan lists. If you require additional information about scanning, please contact the ALMR Help Desk for assistance.